No.
That would be our 50th.
Yes, that would be our 50th.
So it was 8. Oh, 16
we had our 55th also. Was it a year ago?
Yeah.
That was 2020.
Yes,
21.
and it was a hybrid physical and virtual.
Because we attended your physical meeting that time. President Jacob and I and another our secretary treasurer. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, that's very nice of you, PP Robin.
Thank you.
We have 15 seconds left before the start of our meeting. Please don't forget to write your names and your affiliations in the chat box so we can acknowledge you. Thank you.
PP Reggie, should we mute ourselves?
Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, please. We'd like to request everyone to be muted. Good afternoon, everyone. Ayong hapon to everyone from our friends in Cebu and Davao. My name is Past President Reggie Nolido, and I will be your moderator for this afternoon. We have a very interesting meeting as we have the presence of the Honorable Secretary of Justice, who will be properly introduced later. Before we proceed, we'd like to remind you of something today. Please be advised that microphones of non-program participants will be muted to help keep the background noise to a minimum. May we request the visiting Rotarians and guests to please type in the comment box your name, your club or affiliation, or the Rotarian who invited you to participate in this meeting so we can properly acknowledge you later in the program. For our open forum after the talk of the speaker, in case you want to ask a question, please use the raised hand. Simply notify us by typing in the comment box. Alternatively, you may want to type in your questions and we will try to accommodate it during the Q&A. And lastly, please don't leave yet after the response of our presidents, as we will have our group photo up with our speaker. With that, we are now going to proceed with the meeting. It is my honor to call on the presidents of our 3 joint clubs to call this meeting to order, starting with Louis Asioche of the Rotary Club of Makati.
In behalf of the Rotary Club of Makati, I call this meeting to order.
Next, we have LCP Jacob Ong of the Rotary Club of Cebu.
In behalf of Rotary Club of Cebu, I call this joint meeting to order.
And lastly, LCP Arnold Navales of the Rotary Club of Davao.
On behalf of the Rotary Club of Davao, I call this meeting to order.
We'd now like to ask everyone to observe a moment of reverence as we call on Director George Neil Paraowan to lead us, of the Rotary Club of Cebu, to lead us in the invocation.
Thank you, Reggie. Friends, let us put ourselves in the holy presence. Let this be an opportunity to celebrate the gift that we had, past Rotary International Director, Paing Hechanova. For the Lord has blessed us, a pillar in the Rotary Club and District, a friend and family. Eternal Father, you created us in your own image and likeness. But sin has warped the minds of men, and throughout the world, there is so much injustice and much carelessness of the rights of other people and personal responsibility. We pray, Lord, that you will right all the wrongs that are taking place in our world and vindicate those that are being treated unjustly. Keep us, Father, from trying to take matters into our own hands, for vengeance is yours and you will repay. But Lord, in your grace and mercy, we pray that you would give justice and peace to all those who have been cruelly and unfairly treated by their fellow men, and may the injustice and carelessness that they have had to endure be the means to draw them into your saving arms of grace. We ask this in the precious name of the Lord Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for that very apt invocation, and also for remembering, of course, our dear Prit Paing, who is a loved member of our club. At this point, we'd now like to ask you to please honor our national anthem, to be followed by the Rotary Club of Makati hymn.
Together we stand proud. We are leaders with integrity, always ready to serve humanity, always living by the witness, building goodwill, peace along the way, giving hope to the world. We're the Rotary Club of Makati, prepare to aid our fellow men, to lead. We believe in service of love, and this is why we sing. We're the Rotary Club of Makati, and together we stand proud. We are leaders with integrity, always ready to serve humanity, always living by the old witness, building goodwill, peace along the way, giving hope to the world. We're the Rotary Club of Makati, giving hope to the world. The Rotary Club of Makati.
Thank you very much. And now we'd like to call on past President Ferdy Marañon of the Rotary Club of Davao to lead us in the four-way test. Past President Ferdy.
Thank you, President Norgin Olido. The four-way test of the things you think they don't know. First, speak the truth. Second, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you very much, past President Ferdy. Please allow us to take this moment to celebrate the birthdays of certain individuals and couples. We'd like to acknowledge Treasurer Bong Villatuya, who is celebrating his birthday today. I hope everybody enjoyed the food packs that he gave out earlier today. Next, we have Johnson Tan on the 2nd of September. We have Rotarian Patrick K. Lopez of the Rotary Club of Cebu on the 3rd of September. We have our very own President Louis Aseoche on the 4th, expecting also food packs that day. And then Mike Toledo also on the same day on the 4th of September. From our Rotary aunts, we have Kaling Yang on the 4th of September, Tessie Amparo on the 5th of September, as well as Bessie Cruz on the same day. And then lastly, our wedding anniversary celebrators are June and Lucy Enriquez on the 2nd of September, and Dan and Brenda Lim on the 3rd of September. Congratulations. And God bless all of you as you say your respective days. All right. Next up, we will be introducing our visiting Rotarians and guests. Please allow me to get the list here. All right. First, of course, we have our first aunt, Tess Aseoche. We have our Rotary aunts, Marilu Alejandro, Nelly Bengzon, Yvonne Kwan, and my Lido. We also have life-changing presidents in our presence, LCP Rachel Harrison of the Rotary Club of Makati Business District, LCP Ray Lorca of the Rotary Club of Makati San Lorenzo, LCP Leth Malapad of the Rotary Club of Makati Southwest. We, of course, also have our distinguished guests, our guests for today. We are honored to have GMA News DNG team with us. So we will be in the news later. We are also of GMA News. Welcome to our meeting. We have Glenn Albano, an incoming member. We have past President Megs Loan of RC Metro Calibo, a good friend of ours, so from District 3850. President Loida Enero of RC Metro Calibo. IPP Angeli Gurnamal of the Rotary Club of Makati Ayala Triangle. IPP Danny Delfin of the Rotary Club of Parañaque St. Andrews. IPP Mina Foliosco, RC Makati Pio del Pilar. IPP RC Makati Paseo de Magallanes. Chona Bernardo, thank you for being here. Pedro Delantar, Jonathan Gesalim, Vergil Lopez, Assistant Governor 2A, Joel Mermida of RCCB, and Mark Perete. Thank you for being with us this afternoon in this meeting, and we acknowledge your presence. Okay. We will be observing our president's time, and we will have 3 president time, obviously. To start off, we will have our own President Louis Aseoche of RC Makati.
Thank you, PP Reggie. First, allow me to thank our guest speaker for today, Secretary Menardo Guevarra, for accepting our invitation for today's meeting. We look forward to your exciting presentation as you correlate the dispensation of justice in your department with Rotary's 4-way test. Thank you as well to our program's head, Vice President and Director Tony Lopez, for facilitating the invitation to our speaker. You have been lining up a pretty impressive run of speakers, VP Tony. My congratulations. Today's meeting will feature 3 Rotary clubs in the 3 main islands of our country, and we are being covered by GMA News team. Shout out to Rafi Tima. I would like to acknowledge our fellow Rotarians from our brother clubs, RC Cebu, led by LCP Jacob, and RC Davao, led by LCP Arnold, for participating in this joint meeting. This is the first time we will have a joint meeting with clubs outside of our district, and we do intend to have more this Rotary year. Now, the Community Pantry on Wheels, which was launched early this month at the onset of the reinstatement of the ECQ setting in Metro Manila, made its final trip last Saturday, August 28. We provided relief to needy families who were affected by the lockdown in 2 barangays in San Andres, Manila. Allow me to share with you the RCM video news on the project.
CP on Wheels, which was launched early this month, made its final trip today, August 28th, to provide relief to indigent families who were affected by the lockdown. So boarding the District 3830 Tommy truck and their own vehicles to ferry the goods and the volunteers, the lead club presidents, LCP Louis Asioche of RC Makati, LCP Rachel Harrison of RC Makati Business District, and LCP Gigi Uywong of RC Makati Dasmariñas, with past President David and CP Mache Ackerman, and Kit Harrison along with LCP Slet Malapad of RC Makati Southwest, Noemi Begino of RC Makati Bonifacio, and Steve Claros of RC Makati South brought the CP on Wheels to San Andres, Manila.
So we are on our last day of the Community Pantry on Wheels. Actually, this is being done outside the ECQ setting because we are now in MECQ. But because of the generosity of the Rotary Club of Singapore, we have this last hurrah or last salvo of our Community on Pantry on Wheels. So we are now giving away relief packs for 500 families. 500 families, and the Rotary Club of Makati pitched in with their canned goods and of course with a very reliable pair of slippers courtesy of Taba Samson. Rotary Club of Makati, mabuhay!
With restriction protocol on mass gatherings still in place under MECQ, the team made sure that it has secured the necessary permits for this project and that proper social distancing protocols have been observed. Although it has been difficult at times because there are just so many residents begging for food.
Thank you very much to everyone who has come here to support our relief giving, especially to Rotary Club of Singapore. Thank you so much. We've made 500 families happy with canned goods, fresh vegetables, and rice. So it's been a successful day and it's like a fiesta.
A total of 500 families, the biggest among all the site beneficiaries, were given 3 kilos of rice and sets of vegetables courtesy of RC Singapore, a bag of canned goods courtesy of RC Makati, and pairs of slippers donated by our very own Taba Samson. The club wishes to thank our sister club RC Singapore for donating funds for this project and Taba Samson for those pairs of slippers which were a hit among the residents of San Andres.
Very much to RC Singapore and of course all of the other participants. Here we're now looking after 500 families in the area and you can see there's lots of activity. So thank you very much. See you soon.
Special thanks to the District 3830 Disaster Response Team for lending us the Tommy truck to carry our goods. Our District 3830 Governor Joji Tan for her support, our volunteers, as well as several clubs in the district which co-hosted the project. As the CP on Wheels project draws to a close, at least 1,500 families in 7 barangays have been given their much-needed aid to help them tide over these challenging times. The Tommy truck may have ended its run for this project, but the Rotary Club of Makati will continue to fill the gap in the pandemic response with its scheduled turnover of isolation tents in the PNP Makati next week. That is our way of serving to change lives.
So the Tommy truck may have parked its wheels for now, but the Rotary Club of Makati will continue to fill the gap in the pandemic response with its scheduled turnover of a refurbished quarantine facility at the Philippine Army in Taguig this coming Thursday. On September 4, since the cat is out of the bag, I will celebrate my birthday here at the club as the club lends its venue as a co-host for the district's bloodletting project dubbed as Sanduguan. These are our way of serving to change lives. And one final somber note. The Rotary Club of Makati mourns the passing of an icon. We dim our lights as we grieve the demise of past Rotary International Director and our beloved past President, Rafael Paying Hechanova Sr. We have placed a black cloth on the wall of our clubhouse as a sign of a club in deep mourning. May I request everyone for a moment of silence as we place some of the photos of Prid Paing on the screen. The Rotary Club of Makati will be offering a sponsored Mass on Thursday, September 2 at 4 p.m. via Zoom here in our clubhouse, to be followed by a memorial tribute. We have already cleared this with the Hechanova family, and they have even graciously offered their Zoom subscription to be able to accommodate as many attendees as possible. Please find time, all of you, as our club pays its last respect to our beacon and our beloved Mr. Rotary. Needless to say, let us continue to pray for the eternal repose of the soul of Prid Paing. He and past First Anne Nelly are now together in heaven. Thank you.
Thank you, LCP Louis. At this point, we'd like to call on LCP Jacob Ong of the Rotary Club of Cebu to please give his president's.
Thank you very much, P.P. Reggie. Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians and guests. First of all, we are deeply saddened by the news of past Rotary International Director Paeng Hechanova's passing. We condole with his family and the members of Rotary Club of Makati. We have lost a pillar and an icon in our country for Rotary, and past RI Director Paeng will be remembered by everyone as a Rotarian that we all looked up to. Our club is honored to have this privilege to co-host this joint meeting with RC Makati and RC Davao, especially with a very special guest of honor, Secretary Menardo Guevarra. I still remember attending the 53rd induction ball of RC Makati at the Manila Peninsula, and when President Fred Pascual was inducted. what an amazing and memorable event it was. Those were the days when we could really enjoy fellowship in person. Nevertheless, it's also very nice that we are still able to connect now via the virtual world, like this joint meeting. Now, for the past week, our club was able to launch a vaccination awareness campaign. This is to help the vaccination drive of the government, which we believe is the key for all of us to get back to normal. We partnered with the Land Transportation and Regulatory Board, LTFRB, headed here in Cebu by the Regional Director, Eduardo Montialto Jr., who is also incidentally a Rotarian himself. This is to place a vaccination awareness poster in all the public utility vehicles in the province of Cebu. And once it's done, the total number of posters will number 7,000 pieces. That's the number of public PUVs that we have here in Cebu. And we hope that this will encourage more Cebuanos to get vaccinated as soon as they can. This is aside from our continuing work with our 3 global grant projects that are ongoing right now. The first one is what we call the WASH 2.0, because it is our second project that will provide 6 schools with running water, toilet facilities, and washing stations. The second one is for one of our continuing flagship programs, which was started more than 10 years ago, the Community Scouts Youth and Guidance Center. And the third, which is still in the planning stage, but already funded by district designated funds from our own District 3860 and District 3700 in South Korea. It is for the establishment of a Rotary Park or Butuanon River Linear Park in Mandawi City, which is just adjacent to Cebu City. The Mayor of Mandawi City, Mayor Jonas Cortez, has already authorized us, giving us his blessing to pick the location that we want to implement this project. And also related to the Community Scouts Youth and Guidance Center, just last Saturday, we conducted a career talk through Major Lloyd Orculio, the commanding officer of the 7th Regional Community Defense Group. And the goal was to provide information to the 65 young men in the center about military career, should they want to pursue it in the service to our country. Some of these young men are in conflict with the law, and the center provides shelter, guidance, and programs for them to become productive citizens in the future. Now, lastly, just yesterday, we were able to attend the Zone 10A Virtual Rotary Foundation Awards. For the previous Rotary year, the transforming year, and for our club, this was led by immediate past President Edward Gaisano. And I am happy and proud to report that our club was a significant contributor to the awards that were given to our district, District 3860, led by immediate past District Governor, Rodel Rizal Reyes, some of which were the top contributor in the zone for the endowment fund and the achievement of a record high for our district in total foundation giving. So it has only been 2 months since the start of this Rotary year, but it feels like 10 months have passed. I'd just like to acknowledge the dedication, passion, and hard work of my fellow Rotarians in the Rotary Club of Cebu. I cannot mention all of you now, but please accept my sincerest gratitude for your service. Thank you again to President Louie, Vice President Tony, and Rotary Club of Makati for facilitating this joint meeting. I hope we can continue to exchange club newsletters together with Rotary Club of Davao so that we can keep in touch. Thank you again, and good afternoon to everyone.
Thank you, LCP Jacob. And of course, last but not the least, we'd like to call on LCP Arnold Navales of the Rotary Club of Davao to give his president's time. LCP Arnold?
You're on mute.
Oh, he's on mute. All right. You're on mute, President Arnold.
Unmute yun. Okay.
There you are. Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. We thank you for past President Regine Olido, our Master of Ceremony. And of course, we also thank President Louis Asutsi for leading and spearheading this joint club meetings with the premier club in the Philippines, RC Cebu, RC Makati, and RC Davao. So with this meeting we can learn so many things, especially the exchange of ideas of what we are doing in the Rotary for the Rotary motto, serve to change lives. So first, I would like to greet our district governor for District 360, Governor Ana Bumagat, and immediate past district governor Reyes Reyes, and Assistant District Governor in attendance, Joel Marmida, and of course, past President Ferdy Marañon. So now I would like to report to you what transpired the activities of RC Davao with regards in the joint projects of other clubs in Davao City. So in Davao City, we have divided our club into area. We have area area 1, area 2, area 3. No? So we are in area 1, wherein our assistant district governor is Joel Marmida. So our project started last July 9 for bloodletting project. This was spearheaded by the 3 zone area, and we garnered more than 200 donors for the blood. And this is in coordination with the Rotary, the Red Cross of Davao, and all the clubs in Zone 2B, Zone 2B, Zone 2C, or 1, 2.
President Arnold, you're on mute again. I'm sorry. There you are.
Okay, sorry. So I would like to continue my report. Last August 18 and 19, we have Risbak Bakuna, and this is a joint project with Zone 2A, 2B, and 2C in coordination with the Police Regional Office, which was chaired by past Philippine National Police Chief General Archie Guevarra, and his wife, who is our governor nominee, Twinkle Gambua. So we generated 2,000 individuals who were vaccinated at Camp Katitipan. So, of course, the protocol was observed, and the accomplishment was so enormous, wherein it is very efficiently done. And together with some clubs officers, members of Rotary Clubs of Davao, and other clubs who are very active in giving service to the residents, and of course our dependents, no? Mga dependents ng Rotary, Rotarians, employees, and members of the police force were being the recipients of these projects. So we will have also upcoming project on September 9, a tree planting project in Marilog. And on tentatively on September 11 and 12, we'll be having also a continuation of our bakuna, no? Because our city government wanted that 1,200,000 residents in Davao City will be vaccinated up to December 2021, so that we can start now moving our businesses and people who will be working at their different workplace. So for this, I'm happy to report to you that RC, Rotary Clubs of Davao and other members of Zone 2A, Zone 2B, Zone 2C are really working hard for the service of humanity in our city. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, LCP Arnold, and I'm so happy to see that Rotary is doing such good work, no? In Luzon, Visayas, in Mindanao. Before we move further, I'd just like to acknowledge the presence of our IPDG Chacha Camacho. Thank you, Gov, for being with us. We'd also like to acknowledge the presence of Rotary Aunts Lou Limhoco and Chinit Rufino, life-changing presidents LCP Presi Yulo of RC Makati Ayala Triangle, LCP Gemma Sanfa, RC Makati Legazpi, as well as other guests, AG Emily Alvarez, the head of our fundraising committee of the DRFC, and my classmate, IPP June Obong, RC Parañaque Central, also a classmate, IPP Sherwin Torres, RC Makati Southwest, and President nominee Tess de Guzman of RC Makati Ayala Triangle. And now, to introduce our guests of honor, I'd like to call on our Peter Manzano.
Thank you, PP Reggie. Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. I am privileged to have been given this opportunity to introduce to you a great person, who to me is the epitome of excellence. So I will be remiss in my duty if I don't highlight at least a few of the items in his long list of achievements. Our guest of honor and speaker graduated valedictorian of his high school class at the Meycauayan College in Bulacan. He obtained his Bachelor of Arts, major in Political Science, magna cum laude, from the Ateneo de Manila. As soon as he graduated from college, he was immediately recruited by DNEDA and was sent on scholarship to the University of the Philippines for graduate studies in economics. He worked as a staff economist at NEDA, then transferred to the central bank to work as bank economist. While working full-time in these government institutions, he took up law in the evening at the Ateneo School of Law in Makati, graduating salutatorian of his class. He is a bar top-notcher, placing second overall among 700 successful examinees of the 1985 bar examinations. He bested my law partner, Attorney Edward Serapio, who placed 7th, and Senator Laila de Lima, who placed 8th in the same bar exam. Galing talaga. Our speaker was part of the technical staff of the 1986 Constitutional Commission, which drafted the 1987 Philippine Constitution. He started his private law practice as an associate at the Ponce Enrile Pecca Bar Law Offices in Makati. Thereafter, he and several other lawyers decided to form a new partnership which would later be known as Medaldea, Ata, Bello, Guevara, and Suarez. He is an accomplished lawyer who had taken on and supervised more than 1,000 cases involving contract disputes, family and property relations, intra-corporate controversies, tax appeals, and criminal actions. He has a very extensive trial and appellate practice and had appeared in oral arguments before the Court of Appeals and the Supreme Court. He was an active faculty member of the Ateneo de Manila University School of Law, where he taught a broad range of law subjects. In September 2010, he was appointed by President Benigno Aquino III as a member of the Philippine Truth Commission that was tasked to investigate corrupt practices committed during the previous administrations. In May 2015, He was appointed as Deputy Executive Secretary for Legal Affairs at the Office of the President. He was a member of the Philippine legal team in the arbitration case concerning the West Philippine Sea at the Permanent Court of Arbitration at The Hague. In February 2016, he was appointed as a commissioner of the newly created Philippine Competition Commission. Then, in April 2018, our Speaker was appointed by President Rodrigo Roa Duterte as Secretary of Justice. He is happily married to Cynthia G. Villarica of Marilao, Bulacan. They are blessed with 4 children, namely John Maynard, Oliver, Richard, and Lester, all of whom have become professionals in their own right, and 4 grandchildren. As you can see, our Speaker is a very accomplished person, not just as a lawyer, but as an individual. And I would like to believe that Rotary has something to do with it. For not so long ago, our guest of honor speaker was an active Rotarian. Yes, he was a Rotarian. But probably due to the demands of both his professional and personal life, he left Rotary but brought with him the lessons that he learned as a Rotarian, which I would like to believe continue to influence his life as a lawyer and as a high-ranking government official. I also would like to believe that his time as a Rotarian had given him the skills and passion for service and community that has made him a better government official, leader, husband, and father. For as they say, once a Rotarian, always a Rotarian. Earlier, I said that our speaker is the epitome of excellence that is born by his accomplishments. But to us Rotarians and to the millions of Filipinos who continue to search for a better tomorrow through good governance, his brand of public service is definitely a breath of fresh air. Fellow Rotarians and guests, our lovely aunts, to speak to us on the very timely topic, justice and the 4-way test, it is my great honor and privilege to introduce to you the Honorable Secretary of Justice and hopefully our future Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Secretary Menardo Guevarra.
Thank you, Attorney Manzano, for the very kind introduction. I just want to add a little something about myself. In the 1990s, when my partners and I were building our law practice at Ortigas Center, I joined the Rotary Club of San Juan North. We met every Thursday evening at the Club Filipino at Green Hills. Those years left me with very fond memories of the Rotary Club. I also thank Tony Lopez for inviting me to speak before you today. Tony and I have been very good friends since our college years at the Ateneo. And hello to Attorney Reggie Nolido, our MC this afternoon, who was my former law student. I would like to extend my warmest greetings to President Louis Asioche of Rotary Club Makati, President Jacob Ong of Rotary Club Cebu, and President Arnold Navales of Rotary Club Davao. Mabuhay po kayong lahat. My fellow Rotarians and your Rotary aunts, it is an honor to be with you today. To a former active Rotarian such as myself, being part of this event and seeing faces both familiar and new, even if only virtually, is indeed heartwarming. That we are forced to meet this way is just one of the many disruptions to our lives, courtesy of the pandemic. As the pandemic stretches longer, the inconvenience and costs of these disruptions will undoubtedly increase. Over a year ago, this pandemic was largely viewed as a health problem and a public health concern. For the most part, that view still holds true. This is why our national and local authorities, like their counterparts across the globe, continue to implement strict border control, quarantine, social distancing, and related health protocols. All these are designed to stop the further spread of infection. They likewise seek to prevent the collapse of our medical and health systems. But the history of the Spanish flu, the last pandemic most recent in our memory, already hinted at the possibility of a crisis that would be protracted and multidimensional. Guided by the experience and lessons of the past, we at the Department of Justice believed, going early into the pandemic, that justice would likewise be at the front lines of this crisis. We knew that in the short term, the enforcement of border controls and social distancing protocols to protect the health and safety of our communities would significantly rely on the effective prosecution of violators as a measure of deterrence. Back then, we believed as well that the resolution of disputes could not be suspended for long. Otherwise, we may unintentionally sanction a widespread denial of justice. We likewise suspected, presciently it now seems, that even the pandemic could not abate criminality. As the nation went into a lockdown, this, among many other concerns, were foremost in our thoughts. Our concerns can be reduced to the daunting question of how to promote and deliver justice during an unprecedented health crisis. The DOJ formulated an institutional response, taking into account the budgetary reallocations effected to finance urgent public health needs and programs, and the reduced efficiency and disrupted work timelines owing to restrictions on people mobility and office capacity. As expected from a Rotarian at mind and heart, the responses and solutions designed and implemented by the DOJ under my leadership were greatly informed by the principles and ideals of that great tool we all know as the four-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? These are the fundamental questions that guide and influence every Rotarian's decision and action. These questions compel us into a searching scrutiny of the correctness of our intended actions. They force us to assess and examine our intentions within the exacting crucible of our conscience. The power of the four-way test emanates from the process of self-introspection, which automatically activates whenever a decision or action ought to be made. This self-introspection forces us to confront the consequences of our decisions even before they are willed into action. It cautions against haste and compels us to use our foresight so that we may see beyond what may count as urgent but fleeting demands of the present, so that we may look at how the decisions we make now impact and shape our and our children's future. Cognizant of their importance and value, I have relied heavily on these four questions to test many of my decisions, including those that I have made and continue to make as Secretary of Justice. It is to these decisions that I now turn to. First, is it the truth? Truth is the foundation upon which justice is built. Without the truth, accountability and crime deterrence, two important objectives of our criminal justice system, would be hard to achieve. When truth is compromised, our criminal justice system may wrongly convict the innocent or acquit a criminal to the detriment of the peace in our communities. Either way, a miscarriage of justice occurs. Our entire justice system is built upon the belief that the truth can be unearthed to a level of certainty which permits us to pass judgment free from moral doubt or guilt. Truth is therefore essential if we are to punish the guilty and give redress to those who have been wronged. It is crucial in the preservation of our people's trust and confidence in our justice system and in the promotion of peace and social order. Understandably, truth has always been and everywhere contested. This is strikingly made evident by the rules that allocate the burden of proof and regulate the presentation of evidence in court proceedings. Evidence is the currency of truth. When evidence is lacking, concealed, contrived, or tempered with, the truth is suppressed, leading to a failure of justice. As Secretary of Justice, I sought to untangle the Gordian knot that has divorced evidence from truth and justice through a number of interventions. In cases involving gross violations of human rights, allegations of suppression or destruction of evidence and silencing of witnesses have been leveled against both law enforcers and left-leaning groups. Not surprisingly, many violations of human rights and humanitarian law end up as cold cases, unable to proceed for lack of evidence or material witnesses. Given these challenges, we revived an interagency task force on human rights violations to reinvestigate many of these cold cases. These reinvestigations are now led by special prosecutors to insulate the process of evidence collection and preservation from allegations of undue influence by law enforcers. In many instances, I have tapped the expertise of the National Bureau of Investigation, especially when police operatives who usually undertake crime investigations are themselves implicated in the cases. More importantly, I have reached out to the Commission on Human Rights and institutionalized working arrangements with them in the taking of testimonies and the custodial protection of material witnesses. Assigning prosecutors to lead case investigations, bringing in the NBI as an impartial investigator, and banking on the expertise of the CHR in convincing witnesses to speak out are but a few of the steps we have taken to protect evidence from any undue influence. These steps, I believe, are crucial in our quest for the truth and our pursuit of justice in cases involving gross violations of human rights. Simultaneous with these efforts, we have likewise established a review panel to look into violent deaths arising from law enforcement operations against illegal drugs. The President ran and won upon the promise of, among others, eliminating illegal drugs. He has repeatedly tasked our law enforcers to ensure that this campaign promise is delivered. To this day, our people's support for this program remains strong and widespread. This do not, however, exempt law enforcers from strict obedience to the dictates of due process or from following the operational protocols of their respective offices. The President's defense of law enforcers who conduct anti-illegal drug operations covers only those who perform their duties within the bounds of law and official protocol. They are not implied directives for police operatives to circumvent what the Constitution and our laws ordain. It is precisely because of this conviction that the Department of Justice has conducted investigations into drug-related operations where deaths occurred. Our objective and mission for doing so is unambiguously clear: to determine deviations from operation protocols that could have compromised not only the evidence, but more importantly, the lives of suspects. The importance of these twin objectives cannot be overemphasized. We take pains to ensure that those who collect and preserve evidence at every crime scene are trustworthy of the important mandate in their hands, and to impress upon everyone that suspicions do not and can never substitute for the truth. It is this persistent quest for the truth through impartial and thorough investigations that may have deepened the President's trust in the DOJ. As a result, the President tasked us last year to investigate allegations of corruption at the PhilHealth. Soon after we had submitted our preliminary report on the PhilHealth investigation, the President tasked us to likewise lead the investigation of corruption all throughout the government bureaucracy. We likewise believe that the technical cooperation to be extended to us by the United Nations in support of our human rights investigations for the next 3 years is testament to the integrity and independence we have exhibited in the course of our work. To this day, we persevere in this endeavor, searching for evidence so that we may see the truth upon which we can make correct judgment calls. To this day, we continue to ask ourselves that fundamental question upon which justice is built. Is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? A little over a year ago, allegations of attempts to destabilize the government surfaced. A series of videos which claimed that members of the President's family and other important personalities were involved in certain illegal transactions were circulated online. Within weeks, the man who allegedly appeared in the video clips surfaced, implicating, among others, a senator and the vice president for their purported participation in the production and distribution of the videos. Meanwhile, at around this time, the application for the renewal of the legislative franchise of one of the most established media companies in the country was under congressional consideration. Many congressional leaders publicly aired their strong disapproval against the company's application for a new franchise. The political and social significance of these twin developments could not be understated. Any destabilization attempt against the government must and will be taken seriously because the very life of the Republic and the functioning of a democratically constituted government may be at stake. Meanwhile, the possibility of an important and influential media company going off the air by legislative command had decidedly far-reaching consequences in our democratic and political life. In each case, action on the part of the DOJ was sought. In one, respondents asked to dismiss the complaint against the Vice President on grounds of legal immunity. In the other, our opinion was likewise sought on whether the media company may remain on air even after the expiration of its existing legislative franchise, since the regulatory body had granted other similarly situated entities such privilege. We found no immunity from suit vested in the Vice President by our laws, and thus continued with our preliminary investigation. We nevertheless dismissed the complaint against her for lack of evidence. On the other hand, based on equitable grounds, we opined that the media company may be allowed to continue operating pending final legislative action on its franchise application. These decisions were met with different and contrasting reactions. How well or badly these decisions were received depended heavily on the political inclination of the critic. To this day, we stand by those decisions. Embedded in our Constitution and in our DNA as human beings is a powerful concept of fairness. The history of the world is replete with uprisings and revolutions founded on one's cry to be treated no differently from another. Such cries for fairness have proved too powerful that even the gates of nobilities and great privilege have been dismantled. It is for this reason that even our laws have no power to grant fair treatment. They merely recognize and guarantee it. Fairness has two components, equality and equity. Equality dictates that all who are the same must be treated equally without exception. No outside consideration, not political affiliation, religious belief, or economic status, among others, can vary the treatment we accord those similarly situated. Equity, meanwhile, demands that different standards must be made to apply to those who are differently situated. Blind uniformity in the treatment of those who are markedly different ignores deeply ingrained inequalities and thereby results in the perpetuation of injustice. Equality and equity are inseparable. They must always go together if justice is to prevail. Upholding them when the political tides and popular sentiments are at their strongest does not test legal knowledge, but personal fortitude. It is precisely during those times of great difficulty when the question, is it fair to all, demands to be asked even more and to be answered with a clarity of conscience and the immutable force of our honest convictions. Just a few weeks ago, I have been asked if access to certain commercial or public services may be made to depend on the vaccination status of our people. The proposal seeks to encourage the vaccinated to be more mobile, which could hopefully boost consumer demand and jumpstart economic recovery, as well as to restrict further the movements of the unvaccinated for their own safety. The laudable objective behind the proposal notwithstanding, discriminatory standards are hard to justify when access to vaccines remains a privilege. Given the present situation where those who want to be vaccinated are unable to do so due to lack of supply, such proposal, in my view, will not pass the test of fairness at this time. Also recently, I have been asked anew whether the Vice President enjoys legal immunity from suit. The question came in light of reports that the President may run for election to this office next year. As Secretary of Justice, my legal position on this question has remained the same. Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Our justice system is designed to resolve conflicts. Conflicts naturally arise in the course of human interaction. Our diverse interests, persuasions, beliefs, and backgrounds make conflicts inevitable. Practice and tradition assign the resolution of most conflicts to our court system, and a complex and sophisticated set of rules has in time developed to govern how parties are to prove the justness of their cause. These rules of procedure operate to sift through falsity and nuisance and to arrive at what is true and what is right. By design, they promote an adversarial system of opposing parties and oftentimes contradictory or inconsistent claims and positions. This adversarial system is anchored on a zero-sum proposition in which one's gain is exactly equivalent to the other's loss, resulting in a zero net wealth or benefit. It is a system that resolves claims, but most often deepens conflicts. The inevitability of conflicts should not result in the dissolution of relationships, whether business or personal, whenever they arise. Conflicts are survivable. They can be threshed out and resolved amicably while preserving the dignity of parties and the integrity of relationships. However, for this to be achieved, our system of justice must accommodate non-adversarial modes of conflict resolution. This is where the institution of Alternative Dispute Resolution, or ADR, is most welcome. 17 years ago, Congress passed Republic Act number 9285, otherwise known as the Alternative Dispute Resolution Act. This law sought to promote the use of alternative modes of dispute resolution, such as conciliation, mediation, and arbitration, to resolve certain types of conflicts. ADR has many advantages. It is cost efficient, has less stringent rules on procedure and evidence, and resolves disputes faster. More importantly, it allows parties to arrive at mutually acceptable solutions to their problems. Neither party loses. Legal victory is shared. However, it is only last year that the Office for Alternative Dispute Resolution, or OADR, under the Department of Justice was constituted, thanks to the appointment by the President of its Executive Director. Since then, I have sought to strengthen further the OADR. We have expedited key appointments in the office. We have likewise actively promoted the use of ADR systems for the resolution of consumer complaints in the government bureaucracy, including those lodged with the Energy Regulatory Commission and the Department of Trade and Industry. I have likewise pushed for the institutionalization of an online dispute resolution system to resolve consumer complaints arising from transactions in the e-commerce platform. This should expedite conflict resolution at the enterprise level, promoting the rights of our consuming public and deepening their trust in the government and business sectors alike. I hope that the robust and widespread experience we will generate in the use of ADR through these initiatives will build greater confidence among businesses to resort to this system to resolve commercial and other types of cases between and among them. By doing so, we can help unclog our court's dockets and make the wheels of justice turn even more efficiently for all. More importantly, we can propagate a new thinking where the attainment of justice is made possible alongside the building of goodwill and the preservation of important friendships and relationships. Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Dura lex sed lex. The law may be harsh, but it is the law, is a familiar maxim to students of law and those aspiring to become members of the bar. It reinforces the notion of an unbending law upon whose command persons, no matter their disposition or station in life, must bow in obedience. The concept of an unyielding law proceeds from the notion of fairness. All who are equal must be treated equally. To the extent that it promotes fairness, the harshness of the law must be upheld. But when the law's application disregards the demands of equity, its harshness steps beyond the bounds of fairness and justice. An unfair and unjust law is a dead-letter law, devoid of spirit, reason, and justification for being. The application of every law must therefore be tempered with human conscience and compassion. As the pandemic struck, community lockdowns, quarantines, and social distancing measures were imposed. Unfortunately, these measures have been most burdensome on the poor, who lack savings to survive the stretch of community lockdowns and quarantines, and whose daily sustenance depends on the daily wage earned at workstations outside the comfort of their homes. Faced with the prospect of certain death from hunger and the risk of contracting a potentially deadly virus, many have gambled and slipped through quarantine checkpoints in pursuit of work. Many of them have been apprehended for violating quarantine and health protocols. As they await investigation and trial, they have been temporarily cramped in already overpopulated jails where the risk of infection is substantially magnified. The Department of Justice is the government's prosecution arm. We discharge this function through our National Prosecution Service. We prosecute offenders to keep our streets and neighborhoods peaceful and safe and deter others from pursuing livelihood through criminal conduct. The prosecution of criminals is therefore not simply a legal exercise. It bears a social function intended not only to uphold the law, but also to benefit our community and secure for us and our families the peace and prosperity built on public order. But the sheer number of apprehended quarantine violators, who mostly come from the underprivileged amongst us, presented an important dilemma for the department. Must violation of the law be excused because of the life station of the violator? The resolution of this dilemma required upholding the law without losing sight of the fundamental considerations of equity and the consequences our decisions may have on the health of the people and order in our communities. We resolved this dilemma by deciding to pursue criminal complaints against violators, even as we coordinated with law enforcers for the release of those apprehended pending preliminary investigation of their cases. We likewise raised the call for legislators, both local and national, to temper the punishment for violations of this nature by imposing community service as a penalty instead of a fine or imprisonment. In addition, we sought to decongest our prisons, which we feared could be petri dishes of the virus. We promulgated a set of interim rules that expedited the grant of pardon and clemency to those who are most vulnerable to infection, the old and the sick. A substantial number of them have been released, subject to the monitoring of parole and other officers to ensure their good conduct outside our prisons. We crafted these solutions so that we may uphold the law without sacrificing the demands of equity. Cumulatively, they amount to justice tempered with compassion and guided by conscience. My friends, ladies and gentlemen, justice is a noble pursuit. Its pursuit is, however, fraught with great difficulties, challenges, and complications. It is through the aid of 4 questions that I have been able to navigate through the complexity of these considerations and situations. These 4 questions have been fundamental in my work as I strive to let justice speak with the conviction of my principles and the steady guidance of my conscience. I am privileged to serve as Secretary of Justice in these most trying times. I am even more privileged to do so as a Rotarian in mind and heart. Thank you very much, and good afternoon to all of you.
Thank you very much, Secretary Menardo Guevarra. We are very happy to see how it is that you are applying the 4-way test in the work that you do. And you can also show that in our vocations, in our respective vocations, the 4-way test is also relevant. Sir, if you don't mind, would you be open to answer some questions that we have already gathered?
Sure, sir.
Thank you, sir. This is a privileged former student. I now get to ask the questions. So, all right. Well, we have a question here. You mentioned a while ago that one of the things you wanted to do is to expedite the judicial process. What further steps is the department taking, especially to show that the justice system works for the poor and especially for those in far-flung areas?
There is one agency that is supervised by the Department of Justice. No? It is attached to the DOJ for policy supervision as well as for its budgetary considerations. No? And I'm referring to the Public Attorney's Office. So the Public Attorney's Office is an attached agency of the DOJ. And we coordinate very closely insofar as assisting indigent litigants are concerned. So it is basically through the work of the Public Attorney's Office that the DOJ is able to extend a lot of assistance and support to litigants, more particularly the indigent or poor ones.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for that. Actually, also in relation to the public office, it was mentioned to me before that the reason why the conviction rate of a lot of petty criminals is very low is because of police process. Is there anything that the department is doing to improve the processes of the police to ensure that evidence is properly maintained and properly kept for their conviction?
Reggie, are you asking about, did you say police officers?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. One of the problems that Pao was telling me before is that the conviction rate especially of petty criminals, is that it's very low. Because police officers are able to properly to gather and maintain evidence. Is the department doing anything to help the PNP address this issue?
Well, one way, Reggie, in doing so is at the level pa lamang of preliminary investigation. No? Yes. So when criminal complaints are filed before the DOJ, normally the classic arrangement is yung mga prosecutors conducting the preliminary investigation will simply receive what is being submitted to them. No? So kung medyo hilaw ang ebidensya being submitted to them, so be it. No? So that's the traditional way. But prosecution is becoming more proactive this time, no? Especially in certain types of cases. For example, in human rights violations. In situations like that, the investigating prosecutor kumbaga parang takes a more active role and helps the police law enforcers in determining what evidence will be sufficient for conviction. In other words, nagtutulungan, no, in certain types of cases.
Thank you, sir, for that. And we're really happy that you're mentioning human rights is a very important component of the department. But sir, there is a question from one of our members. How do you now place yourself in your position vis-a-vis the hard stance of the president in not wanting to cooperate with the UN Committee on Human Rights?
Well, hindi naman actually ganon ang position of the president. He just does not want interference in our domestic mechanisms. No? I think that's basically his concern, that international institutions are getting in the way when in fact our domestic mechanisms are there operating and can actually resolve conflicts within. So on the matter of human rights, he has also expressed his view that even though he's waging this campaign against illegal drugs, and many have died because of this campaign, it doesn't really mean that he's disrespecting human rights. No, as a matter of fact, this review panel that was constituted and headed by the Department of Justice is doing a lot to ensure that those who must be held accountable for deaths arising from illegal drug operations are brought before the bar of justice.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for that. Question here on when you mentioned earlier, no, in the segment of is it the truth? What would you advise women who are afraid to officially report sexual harassment cases? Often due to fear that they use social media. No? Due to fear, they use social media instead to reach out and call for help. So is there any program that you have especially geared for women?
For women? It's just a matter
for the protection of women.
Yes, Attorney Nolido, it's really just a matter of educating our people, especially the female population, about the avenues or the means through which they can report itong mga ganitong klaseng abuses against them, no? It really takes a lot of guts for, you know, for somebody who has been sexually abused, for instance, to go to the police station and report what happened to her. But there are various groups or government entities or units, no, whether within the police system or within the DOJ or independent.
Hello, sir. Sir, I think the connection, there's something wrong with the connection. Am I the only one, or is it really a problem with the connection? Yeah, okay, all right. Thank you, sir.
Directly.
All right.
Yeah. Then they can approach certain government agencies, no? To help them in bringing the matter before the prosecution or investigation departments or agencies of the government.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for that. There is a very interesting question we have in the chat box. Secretary Guevarra, do you think the president will have his day in the court in the IC?
Reggie, I didn't hear the question. Sorry, nawala yung audio mo partly.
All right. Secretary, there's a question in the chat box. Do you think the president will have his day in court in the ICC?
Well, you know, matters like this ay dapat ang Secretary of Foreign Affairs ang sasagot, no, because he was given the sole mandate to make comments about the ICC cases. But I guess should things come to, you know, to the point where the president may have to answer or be investigated formally by the ICC, I think he has the proper legal defenses available, and will invoke all of these legal defenses at the proper time.
Thank you, sir. We have a very interesting question here that just came up. Any updates, sir, on the Senator De Lima case?
Oh, you will probably remember that there were 3 criminal cases filed against the former Secretary of Justice and now Senator. Yeah, one of them was dismissed on a demurrer to evidence, meaning in that particular case, the prosecution did not present enough evidence to support a conviction. So you know this, Reggie. We took this up in class, and on a demurrer to evidence, the complaint was dismissed. But there are 2 other cases pending against the senator, and in one of this, a similar attempt to cause an early dismissal by way of a demurrer to evidence was denied by the court. So the legal implication of that is the prosecution had presented enough evidence to convict her. And unless she is able to present sufficient controverting evidence on her turn to present evidence, she may be convicted. So that is the implication of that denial of her demurrer to evidence in one of the 2 other cases. So all of this, I mean, both of these cases that are still pending are undergoing trial, except that they have been slowed down by the voluntary inhibitions of the trial judges upon motion by the senator herself. One of the judges recently inhibited herself. So we're back to square one, and a new judge will have to be appointed to continue the trial in the 2 remaining cases.
Thank you, sir, for that. And we are looking forward to see what developments happen in that case. Just in case anybody here would like to ask a question live rather than on the chat box, please raise your hands. We have a few minutes remaining for our question and answer. Anybody from maybe our friends from Davao or Cebu, if you have any questions. There's a question here.
Yes, sir.
Here again in the chat box. Cases filed against Senator Trillanes. I don't know where this is coming from, but there is a question here. Is there any case against Senator Trillanes that's going to be filed?
Against Senator Trillanes, well, the rebellion charges against him were revived by the Department of Justice after the president revoked the amnesty granted to Senator Trillanes by the former president. So when President Duterte revoked that amnesty on certain legal and factual grounds, the DOJ revived the rebellion charge against him that was then pending, or no, not really pending, but was dismissed by the trial court of Makati precisely because of the original amnesty given. So now the revival of that rebellion charge was questioned by Senator Trillanes in his superior court. And it went all the way up to the Supreme Court and is still pending there. So we really don't know as of this time whether the Supreme Court will rule that the DOJ correctly revived the rebellion charge, or whether the Supreme Court will rule that no, this cannot be revived anymore because the trial court had earlier dismissed it, and there will be some sort of legal bar for the revival of the same case against Senator Trillanes. So it's now in the Supreme Court, and we're just awaiting any final resolution by the highest court.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. We have a question from TP Tito Pandillo. Tito, you're recognized. Please unmute there.
The Blue Eagle.
Yes.
During our time.
Yes, good afternoon, Secretary Guevarra. And of course, truly appreciate you using the four-week test as the foundation of your talk today. Benchmarking your activities on our four-week test. Thank you very much for articulating that. Anyway, as to my question, Mr. Secretary, please clarify us on what's happening now. Now, there's several cases being investigated by the Senate, particularly cases on corruption. But very clear is the corruption case that, well, I wouldn't say corruption yet, but the case that is now ongoing because of the DOH DBM incident, where 43 billion pesos were transferred. Yeah. My question is, if the Senate committee finally decides that there is probable cause, where will it end up? Will it end up with your office, Secretary, because you are the prosecution arm of the government, or it will go to the Ombudsman for prosecution?
That's a very interesting and very valid question, Tito. But let's try to understand what exactly Congress, more particularly the Senate,
we're losing.
Again,
we're losing you, Secretary.
Pardon? You cannot hear me. I'm sorry.
Yes. Can you kindly repeat,
yes,
Mr. Secretary?
Yung audio is okay?
All right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We just lost you for a little while.
Yeah, Tito, I was saying that investigations being conducted by either the lower house, the House of Representatives or the Senate, is theoretically in aid of legislation. So they're supposed to be doing this fact-finding, these probes, these investigations, so that they may be able to craft the appropriate legislation or make any appropriate amendments to existing legislation. That is the principal objective of all these investigations. But in the process, if they are able to uncover certain facts that may provide leads to the executive department to conduct their own investigation and possibly prosecution, Congress would normally pass on or submit a copy of their fact-finding reports on investigation.
Lost you again, Mr. Secretary. Moderator Reggie.
Yeah, the connection.
SOS.
Yeah, the connection is getting lost.
Little faulty.
Yeah.
Maybe ask the secretary just to repeat the last.
Hello, sir.
Yeah. So can you hear me, Mr.
Yes,
Moderator?
we can hear you now, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, all right. So these investigating committees in Congress would sometimes pass on their reports to the executive department. Oftentimes, it's to the Department of Justice if criminal investigation and possible prosecution is warranted. So on that basis, we make use of the congressional report or findings as something like a lead or a starting point for the conduct of our own investigation. So we adopt some of their findings or build on the findings that they have already done, no? And we
Okay, sir. I think the connection is again getting bad. Hello, sir. Okay.
Secretary is back.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
we're trying to get as much. What's happening is that we're losing your signal every so often. So, yeah, but I think we pretty much got also what it is that you wanted to convey.
Yeah, I hope so.
That topic, sir. Thank you, sir. Time check. No, we are already at 3:30. The meeting is only supposed to be at 3:30. So there are actually still a lot of questions. However, if I may be indulged to one more question from our President Louie. Of late, we have had a spate of court decisions acquitting persons charged with violation of the anti-terror law or of drug cases because of insufficient evidence. Others sees this as a good sign that our courts are independent. However, others also see it as a poor indictment of preliminary investigations that they simply file even if the evidence is weak. What can you say about this, sir?
Well, that is partially true, no? Sometimes it happens that doon pa lang sa paglelay ng basis or rather ng evidentiary basis, kung sometimes talagang kulang ang ebidensya, no? That's the purpose precisely of preliminary investigation. On the part of the Department of Justice, we have to determine whether there is probable cause to go up to the courts for a full-blown trial. So that is the measure that we adopt, probable cause. So many prosecutors are guided by this and would only allow certain cases to reach the court because the evidence is already enough to sustain a conviction unless the other party is able to controvert the evidence. But it also happens sometimes that while the evidence submitted during preliminary investigation appears to be sufficient, but when the court goes through a full-blown trial, the level or the quantum of evidence needed to convict, of course, is much, much higher. Kailangan ng proof beyond reasonable doubt. So sometimes it happens that what would be enough from the point of view of the prosecution may be seen differently by the judge. So that sometimes happens, but I am not prepared to say that that is the general situation. I think by and large, the general situation is that most cases that have been screened by the prosecution service have a much higher rate of conviction rather than a few na dismissed for lack of evidence. So I guess that's a general picture, but we admit that there are a few cases na talagang ganyan ang nangyayari. That's part of life.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I hope you don't mind. Can we just have a few more questions? We're really having a lot of clamor for more questions, unless you have time constraints, sir.
No. Feel free.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I'd like to recognize Fred Pascual. Yes, he's time.
Yes, Fred.
Fred, you're still on mute, Fred.
Thank you, PP Reggie. Secretary Guevara, thank you for your very enlightening discourse. I have a question. I don't know whether this is in your area of responsibility or that of the Supreme Court. As you very well know, the confidence of many of our countrymen in the court system has been undermined, by allegations or observations of corrupt practices that led to miscarriage of justice. The question is, what mechanisms are being considered or being implemented to make sure that the practices such as the bribery of judges and similar techniques or tricks are prevented so that justice is carried out as it should be?
Thank you, Fred, for the question. Well, as you correctly pointed out, that is really within the jurisdiction or purview of the Supreme Court. But personally, I know that quite recently, the Supreme Court has created its own integrity board. It's called an integrity board within the Supreme Court. I think it's under the supervision of the Office of the Court Administrator. So all complaints pertaining to alleged corruption, bribery on the part of those sitting in the bench, our judges, our justices, all of these complaints are forwarded to this internal mechanism within the Supreme Court called the Integrity Board. So this board will examine the complaint and receive evidence in support of these complaints. And they will, the members of the board will decide what administrative actions will be taken against judges or justices found liable for these administrative offenses. And if there is basis to charge them criminally, then this integrity board will refer or endorse their findings either to the Department of Justice or
Hello. Again, we're losing the secretary. Sir?
Reggie?
Yeah, sir? Yeah, well, we're losing his
Past President Fidel has been raising his hand. Fidel.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
No, but yes, sir. We lost you again. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I hope you got the essence of my answer. There's an integrity board.
Yes, sir.
In the Supreme Court that takes care of all this.
Yes, sir. One of your former students is also part of that, Melanie Trinidad. I don't know if you remember her. Anyway, Tony Lopez, you have a question. And then after that, we will call on Fidel Alfonso.
Secretary Maynard, you made us all proud. You made us all proud here in Rotary by gracing us with your presence. My question is, you cited earlier the renewal of the franchise of ABS-CBN. And the question is, how would I, as a member of the public, put weight when the Secretary of Justice, the Office of the Solicitor General, and the Presidential Legal Counsel may seemingly have different opinions on certain cases? Now, how should I, as an ordinary citizen, interpret a situation like that?
Tony,
did you get me, Maynard?
Tony, I didn't get the large part of.
Okay. I will repeat. You cited earlier the case of ABS-CBN in the renewal of its franchise. Okay. How should I, as just an ordinary member of the public, interpret when there is a seemingly different opinion among the Secretary of Justice, the Office of the Solicitor General, and the Presidential Legal Counsel? How do I interpret that? how should I understand the situation like that?
Tony, first of all, my office, the Department of Justice, the Office of the Solicitor General, and the Office of the Chief Presidential Legal Counsel are one in saying that the matter of granting franchises is purely a congressional prerogative. So to that extent, pare-pareho naman kami ng sinasabi dyan. It's a congressional prerogative. What made us different is on the matter of our stance on how this media company, more particularly the ABS-CBN, should be treated while its application for renewal of franchise was still pending before Congress. So we said that for equitable considerations, since other similarly situated media companies were granted the privilege of continuing to operate while their franchise applications are still pending, so the same thing must be extended to the media company in question. That's what I mean when we say that justice is not only, what the law says. It's got to be tempered also with equity. Doon kami nagdi-differ on the part of, I think, the OSG, yung Duralex said Lex, kung expired na yung yung franchise mo, you stop operating. Yun ang punto nila. Kami naman, we tempered the law with equitable considerations because what we're saying is hindi naman kasalanan ng company kung hindi pa na-actionan ng Kongreso yung kanilang application which had long been filed. So that's where we differed. Now, from the point of view of an ordinary citizen, it really depends on where you are at also. No? If you are the type of person who would say that what the law says must be followed, or if you are the type of person who believes that justice is not just what the law says, but also what equity demands.
Thank you, Maynard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Tony, the answer to your question is Menardo Guevarra is better than the other two. We have a question for Fidel, from Fidel Alfonso. Fidel?
Yes, Fidel.
Fidel? Yes, sir. Please unmute, Fidel. Please unmute.
Is that okay?
Okay.
I'd like to start by saying that I am not a lawyer, but my questions dwell on the Constitution. It's a set of two questions. The president has announced that he is running for vice president in the 2022 elections. Is there no provision in the Philippine Constitution that could prevent the president from proceeding with this plan? The second question is, assuming the president does run and wins as vice president in 2022, and the new president in 2022, whoever that may be, dies in office, can Vice President Duterte succeed him and become president again?
Fidel, thank you for the question. Actually, I've answered this question already a few months ago, and I stated that there is nothing in the wording of our present Constitution that prohibits the sitting president from running for the position of vice president. What the Constitution expressly prohibits is for him to be re-elected. And when we speak of re-election, we're talking about the same position. as what he is currently holding. So yun ang prohibition that is clear in the Constitution. He cannot be re-elected to the same position. But there is nothing that says he is prohibited from running for vice president. We have seen this before, other former presidents who ran for other lower positions after they finished their term as president. Former President Macapagal Arroyo ran for a congressional district position. Former President Erap Estrada ran for city mayor. So they may run for other positions except to run again for the position of president. So having said that, if he ran next year for vice president and won, and something happens to the sitting president, or rather the president who will win next year, that is precisely the role of the vice president, to take over if the elected president dies in office, becomes permanently incapacitated, or resigns. That is the role of the vice president, and people are expected to understand that that will happen should they vote for a particular person to the position of vice president.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for your response. Unfortunately, it's already 3:45, and I have been instructed to already move on to the rest of the program. Thank you, sir, for being very generous with your time.
My pleasure.
I would now like to call on LCP Jacob Ong for your response to our.
Thank you very much, PP Reggie. And thank you very much, Secretary Guevarra. Thank you for clearly defining the four-way test in a way that everyone, all of us here can relate to. Your talk has inspired me, and I'm certain that it is the same with everyone else here on the significance of why we have the four-way test in Rotary, and how it is not only limited to the world of Rotarians, but it's actually the foundation of everything that we follow in our daily lives. So thank you very much, sir. Very honored to hear your talk. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, LCP Jacob. I'd now like to call on LCP Arnold Navales. Please give your response.
Thank you so much, PP Reggie. We are truly grateful for your topic presented today for our joint club meeting, RC Makati, RC Cebu, RC Davao, Secretary Justice Menardo Guevarra. You are an icon of fair justice, especially so for this pandemic period, and incorporating the four-way test of Rotary in the exercise of your department, implementation and actions. We appreciate it so much. Thank you, Justice Secretary Guevarra.
Salamat po, President Arnold.
And last but not least, I'd like to call on LCP Louie Asioche for his response.
Nakamute.
Louie, you're still in mute.
Am I on mute? Okay. I must commend the speaker for choosing a topic which strikes to the core of us Rotarians. Secretary Guevarra, you truly are a Rotarian and will always be. We all know that the four-way test of what we say, think, or do has been the guidepost that we Rotarians adhere to. But to me, the first of these four tests is the most important. The three others flow from the first. If truth is compromised, how can a state of untruth be fair to all concerned? If an environment or a situation is anchored on lies, how can it be conducive to building goodwill and better friendships, much less be beneficial to all concerned? And so it behooves upon decent, upright, and strong-willed individuals who are in positions of influence and persuasion to ensure that the institution that he or she represents remains formidable, functional, and uncompromised. And if his actions in his departments the so-called interventions that the good secretary has said he has put in place in the DOJ are of any indication, then we can say that Secretary and Rotarian Menardo Guevarra is one who truly takes his oath of office to heart, which is to maintain the integrity of an institution whose primordial role is to serve justice regardless of one's station in life. So thank you, Secretary Guevarra, for that assuring thought that the Department of Justice is in good hands. On behalf of the Rotary Club of Makati, our aunts, our district governor, Georgie Tan, the other Rotarians from the different Rotary clubs in our district, especially my classmates, my life-changing presidents, and all the other guests in attendance, please accept our heartfelt gratitude. And as a token of our appreciation, first, we will be sending to you, no, the wine goes last. This coffee table book, the 50th coffee table book, which contains the achievements of our club for the past 50 years. And then together with this bottle of wine for you to enjoy while browsing our coffee table book, sir. And aside from the wine in the book, please accept this plaque of appreciation. Now the plaque includes a replica. Can you see it? A replica of the steel plate that will be put on the reef bud that will be planted in the sea of Narvacan, Ilocos Sur. This is part of our Save Our Reefs project. Your name is there. And this is a major environmental initiative of our club in line with the Rotary's 7th area of focus. Our Save the Reef project aims to help revive and regenerate nearshore marine ecosystems. Thank you, sir, for your time. Now, may I request everyone to please open their camera first for our usual photo op with our distinguished speaker.
Thank you, President Louis.
Okay, picture. Open camera. Second window. Third window.
Okay na?
Okay.
Thank you very much, President. Po kayo, Secretary Menardo Guevarra. Salamat po sa oras ninyo.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Maynard. Thank you, Maynard.
Thank you, Tony.
Do we adjourn?
Yeah. On behalf of the Rotary Club of Makati, I adjourn this meeting.
LCP Arnold?
On behalf of Rotary Club of Davao, I adjourn this meeting.
And LCP Jacob?
In behalf of the Rotary Club of Cebu, I adjourn this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
President Louis, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Reggie.
Thank you, sir.